Hi, this is Stu from Mobile Geeks, and here we are in a very wet and dreary Taipei city, where HTC have just launched their latest smartphone device, the HTC One Mini 2. The HTC One Mini 2 is a 4.5-inch device with a 720p LCD2 screen. You're getting a 30 megapixel camera on the back, a 5 megapixel on the front. You're also getting a Snapdragon 400 platform, clocked at 1.2 gigahertz, backed by 1 gigabyte of RAM. That has the Adreno 305 GPU. And of course, you're getting your boom sound speakers at the top and bottom of the device. Let's have a look in a little bit more detail. The first thing you're going to notice when you look at this device is just how similar it is to its big brother, the HTC One M8. And of course, the styling is very, very similar. But in fact, I don't believe that this is a unibody design. Instead of having one piece of aluminium, you can see that these plastic lines here are actually, well, I can feel them. They are actually plastic separating the two parts. And you'll notice that these plastic lines actually join together to form a rim around the edge of the device. So what we didn't have with the M8, it was all aluminium. With the Mini 2, we're noticing that we have this plastic rim which kind of goes all the way around the device, and with the screen sitting directly on top. So is it really unibody? I'm not so sure, but at a glance it certainly looks similar, and in the hand it also feels very similar. You'll notice, of course, you've got the two boom sound speakers at the top. They're also great. We'll get to those later. We've got our headphone socket right here. We've got a volume rocker switch on the side. This is for your SD card, I believe. This is for your SIM over here. One thing I really am not so keen on is the fact that the power button is here on the top left side. With the M8, it was on the top right side. That's something which I've found a little bit infuriating, if I'm being entirely honest. But overall, the device looks fantastic, it feels fantastic, it's a worthy new member of the new HTC One family. So we're having a quick comparison here with our One Mini 2, and over here we have our One M8. So obviously there's a very significant difference in size. This guy is significantly bigger with a 5.1 1080p screen. Over here we have a 4.5-inch 720 screen, and I'll just turn those screens off. One thing you'll notice is the button here on the right, and this guy here is the button on the left. I find that infinitely infuriating. What's going on, HTC? I just want to go bing or bing. I don't have to figure out which one's which. It's just very annoying. Anyway, looking at the back, you can see that they both have a very similar kind of metallic bullet finish. It's the same finish on both. They feel the same. Although there is a difference. If we touch along this edge here, this line, that line is kind of like drawn or etched on. There's nothing here that we can feel at all. But if we look at this guy, we can detect a rim here. This is a line of plastic. This is a piece of plastic which joins the plastic here. As I mentioned, it forms a frame around which the glass panel kind of sits on. So, is it a unibody? As I mentioned earlier, maybe, maybe not. But the in-hand feel, yeah, this guy feels good. This guy feels good too. Some people may even prefer the smaller Mini 2, just because if you have smaller hands, you can grip right around it. And also, it's slightly thicker because it's in fact slightly rounded, or more rounded than the M8 right here, which is slightly concave, but this is more concave and more rounded. So the in-hand feel is pretty awesome. So we're just looking at the display here, and what you have is a 720p 1280 by 720 pixel 4.5-inch LCD2 capacitive touchscreen display. And as you can see, it looks pretty impressive. We're just going through some of our stock images, which we use for comparison purposes. And I would say, even though we are outdoors right now, that that's reasonably bright and clear. The colors are crisp. This looks almost as good as the screen on the HTC One M8. Let's just take a look at some of these viewing angles. You can see actually the viewing angles on this guy are pretty impressive. The brightness, let's just check that our brightness is pushed up to the max. Oh no, we can get a bit more out of this. Oh, let's go. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, now we can really see, yeah. It's very bright, it's very vivid. It's not the brightest day here, it's actually quite a miserable day here in Taipei. But having said that, this is natural sunlight and it's doing a fantastic job. So here we are, trying out the selfie mode on the Mini 2. It's very similar to what we saw on the M8 and even the 816. Take a terrible, terrible photo. Okay, so here you go, there's the photo. Yeah! All right, let's go back. And here we can see, go back into regular camera mode. Let's go. So it's pretty quick. It's adjusting, see light adjustment. Yeah. Ooh, ooh. Wow. Not so bad. Over here we have a bunch of settings we can try out. So here we have auto, ISO, exposure, white balance, and here we have some filters, which we can apply in real time. Wow. Instagram land. Okay, let's try this depth of field. Let's focus in on the slide. And how did that turn out? Not bad. And this is without a depth of field sensor that we saw in the M8. So actually reasonably good. Okay. And inside here at the end, of course, we have settings. We can crop, we can change the resolution, do all kinds of stuff. In terms of modes, unlike the M8, which had 6 modes, we just get 3 basic modes here: camera, video, and selfie. This is camera mode. Let's just shoot a quickie video. This is 1080p video we're shooting. Not bad, pretty impressive for a 13 megapixel camera on the back here. We think that's reasonably good. So of course, in terms of audio, HTC have done a great job with the One series so far. And we also checked out the Desire 816 recently, which also had, here you go, I'm having to turn it down already just to be heard. And the 816 also did very well. So here we are checking out the Mini 2. And we're just going to show you, well, this game here, which has a pretty interesting intro. Wow, that is really impressive. You're getting a real sensation of the stereo-ness of what's going on here. It's very apparent that this is a real pair of stereo speakers. Let's just quickly jump out of there, if we can, and check out our bit of rock music. Okay, here we go. Wow. Fantastic. I love it. I think this is not quite as loud as the M8, but it's something very similar to what we saw on the 816. And overall, it's great. Well done, HTC. So in terms of battery life, obviously being a smaller device, you're not getting the 2600 milliamp hour battery that we saw in the M8, and here but it's not bad. You're getting a 2110 milliamp hour battery on the Mini 2, which is, I think, reasonable considering the size of this thing. And we're getting 1 day out of this easily. And the great thing is, of course, you've also got 2 power saving modes. You've got regular power saving and extreme power saving. Regular power saving will basically just tone down your device so you're more likely to get a whole day out of it, whereas you can bring in the extreme power saving mode when you really are against it and you only have a few bars left. So on the One Mini 2, of course, we're also getting HTC Sense UI version 6, which we saw a few weeks ago on the M8 first. And it's very similar. It's got similar kind of features. We go in here, we can see, here we have our app drawer. There's all of our applications. I can click here and I can hide on apps. I can also manage my apps. I can see them by download, which ones are on an SD card. If I pull down here again, I can see a full menu of options. Do not disturb, vibrate, extreme power mode, regular power mode. You can turn Wi-Fi on and off. Hold down here for brightness. I can adjust that. We have the screen brightness and a lot of other options to do with the screen. So everything's very accessible, very simple, very slick, and we've had no complaints really. The only thing that I'm not particularly keen about is blink feed, and I'm not blink feed, go away. And let's see how we can do that. It's very simple to take that away. Manage home screen panels. Let's move over to blink feed. Remove. Blink feed, be gone. But other than that, we're looking at very little in terms of bloatware. Most of the HTC apps that we've found, actually, if you look at calculator here, again, very simplistic, very clean. Let's look at calendar. They've got this kind of a simple kind of theme going on with all of these. Oh, there's our gallery. But as you notice, we've got hardware buttons here. So this is, again, 4.4. We're seeing less hardware buttons. We're seeing, sorry, these software buttons on the screen, I should say. And I think overall, the experience is pretty good. Very impressed. So generally, in terms of hardware, the specification sheet isn't fantastic compared to many of the 5-inch flagship smartphones out there. But for a 4.5-inch device, having a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400, 720p screen, 13 megapixel camera, this is no slouch. This is probably one of the best equipped smartphones of this size on the market. And the beauty of it is you're getting this fantastic chassis design, which I absolutely adore. In terms of design and build quality, we have the same very attractive design philosophy that we've seen on all HTC One devices. This wonderful chassis might not be unibody as we've already gone into, but it still feels great in the hand. It's more rounded than before, and because of that, it does tend to rock side to side when it's placed flat on the table, which is frankly quite annoying. But the upside is it feels better than ever in the hand. People with smaller hands will appreciate the fact that it kind of sits in the cradle of your palm very nicely. The weight is good too. It's not too heavy. It feels solid. If I have one complaint though, why did they move the button from the right side to the left side? Having used the One M8 quite a lot in the last few weeks, I'm kind of used to having it right here on the top right. So why move it to the left, HTC? That really just annoyed me. What do we think of the display? We're very impressed. It's a 720p Super LCD 2, not an LCD 3 that we got on the M8, but still, it's very impressive. The viewing angles are fantastic. The brightness is wonderful. The pixel density is great. It's better than the 816 we saw recently, simply because it's a smaller screen. It's 4.5 inches with 720p squeezed right in there. It's fantastic. So here on the rear, we have a 30 megapixel camera, and on the front we have a 5 megapixel camera. The 30 megapixel, as far as we can see, it's a very similar experience to what we saw on the Desire 816, which we reviewed just a week or so ago. It's decent enough, it's okay. It's probably, you could argue, best in its class for a mid-range smartphone camera. It has HDR, it has filters, you can change a lot of the ISO and brightness settings. It's got the goods that you'll need to take a decent photo if you're in a decent environment. If you're in an environment with low light, you're going to struggle. If you want extra features that you saw in the M8, such as the depth sensor, go and run, because they ain't there. You're getting far fewer features, but it is a reasonably good camera. Okay, forgive me my cheesy rock, but I'm just so enthused with these speakers. They're fantastic. Get a load of this. Yeah. Anyway, once again, HTC have knocked the ball right out of the park with the audio and their boom sound speakers. And they're stereo. And when you're playing games, you're going to feel it stereo. You're going to notice bullets whizzing past your head. It's great. So the HTC One Mini 2 is running a Snapdragon 400 platform, which is similar actually to what we saw here on the Desire 816, also the Snapdragon 400. But not all Snapdragon 400s are equal. Over here you're getting 1.2 gigahertz, and over here you're getting 1.6. And the benchmarks actually back this up. You're getting higher scores with the 816. How do I feel about that? This is a much more kind of, not budget, but a lower mid-range. This is sporting the HTC One design. It's supposed to be a more high-end device, and I just feel a little bit upset that this guy is outperforming this guy, even though they're supposed to be pretty much the same system on chip. So performance, meh. So the battery here is a 2110 milliamp hour battery, which is not bad at all, considering the device's 4.5-inch form factor. We're getting 1 day out of it, no problem. And if you are a heavy user, of course, there's power saving mode and extreme power saving mode for when you're in a spot of bother. Overall, this is something we expect of all devices kind of in this category, in the mid-range category and above, so no disappointments there. The battery performs as advertised. So in terms of software, we have, again, the HTC Sense UI version 6, and it's exactly the same as we remember it on the Desire 816 and also the M8 from a few weeks ago. It's good, it's not full of bloatware, it's smooth, the menus and navigation is very simple. The HTC apps, which there aren't too many of, they prefer now to go with Google apps, mostly in Google widgets, but the ones that are made by HTC are very clean and very functional, and we like it all. Thumbs up there. The estimated retail price of this guy, we're not totally sure right now as we speak, but that's what we expect. That's what the rumor mill is saying. So how do I feel about that price point? Well, it's got a kind of mid-range camera and a mid-range processor. It's got a nice screen. It's got a fantastic design and look and feel about it, but I'm not sure really whether HTC have got the balance quite right here. If you can get this guy for 380 euros, and he's larger, and he's got the same camera, the same speakers, the same user experience, the same resolution screen. Okay, it's a lower pixel count because it's larger, but it is larger. I mean, I'm not sure. This is looking better value now that I know the price of this guy. And then we have the One, which is coming down in price. This is 600 euros. I don't know. It's tough. I'm not sure how I feel about price. In the land of the small hands, the 4.5-inch smartphone will rule. My hands aren't that small, but I think this will certainly suit a lot of ladies who perhaps feel that the M8 was just too big and too bulky. The rounded feel in the hand is also very attractive. The screen is great. The software is great. The camera is kind of pretty good. The battery life is good. There's a lot of things that make this phone a very, very attractive and very worthy and very recommendable phone for people who prefer a 4.5-inch form factor smartphone. Now, when price comes into it, that might change things a little bit, but I think overall, this is definitely a phone I would recommend, although there are some issues. The unibody design isn't actually unibody. There's plastic on the back. It doesn't change things entirely, but for me, it seems slightly cheating. HTC, why didn't you just make it unibody? Why don't you just miniaturize what you had with the M8? The other thing that really irritates the hell out of me is this damn button over here. It's in the wrong place. I don't know what else to say.
One.